Okay, welcome back to Fat Cat Collections. Today I want to bring up just a question and a kind of an answer to that, and just kind of discussion about. We're going to just focus on one brand today, and this can be said about a lot of brands, but are Omega watches any good, right? And what makes them so expensive? When I'm looking right now on my desk here, and I got 4 watches, and I'm not going to tell you which 4 I have or what brand names, but some cost $1,400, another cost, $2,500. One costs $3, and one costs $150. A couple of them have Seiko NH35 movements. The other ones have Valjoux 7750s. So, I mean, they're all respected movements. They all tell time. The Valjoux are chronograph automatic movements. The other ones are just like, day, time and day, right? The other one has a Miyota. That one doesn't have the day of the month, right? So they all are self-winding. They all have over 20 jewels for wear purposes. And so what makes one worth more than the other? So I'm looking at one that costs $2,700, right, $2,500, and one that costs $150. When I look at them and I feel them in my hands, they both tell time. They both are beautiful. The $150 one has way more materials in it, has way more heft. So if you just want to go on weight, what it feels like, that one, the $150 one, feels like it would be the more expensive one, right? So what makes Omega so expensive? Why can they get away with charging what they charge? Are they a better watch? So you're telling me that if I get an Omega watch at $4,000, that's going to last me 20 years, but my $150 one won't? It's absurd. I have watches in my collection that were $50 that work for 20 years that don't even have good movements. They're basic, cheap, shitty movements. So for those watch snobs, those haters that think they know everything, they come on my channel and they want to say, oh, this brand sucks, or that brand's great, or you can pass the Rolex down. It's absurd. Absurd. You're absurd. So let's talk about it. What makes Omega, why do they charge what they charge, right? We're just picking on Omega for a second. Not saying it's not a beautiful watch. Not saying it's, not great. But I tell you right now, if I wear my $150 watch over that Omega, people are going to compliment my $150 watch way more than that Omega. But I mean, it's very subjective. Everybody likes something different, but Omega, it's not going to get noticed. But why do they charge what they charge, right? Here's my answer to that. Because they can. Because the Omegas, it's got a huge reputation as far as being associated with luxury. Omegas never came out and charged, $150 for their watches. They charge $3,000, $4,000 for their watches. So not everybody buys an Omega because of the price. Doesn't mean it's worth the price. It just means that they said that this is how our brand's going to be, and that we're going to charge this amount of money for it. I'm not saying it's not a great quality watch at all, but I'm just saying they picked that price point, and that's what they're gonna charge. As far as the extra materials, probably like $50 in extra materials over a watch that's $150. Not really much more materials as far as what goes into the watch. So it's a very recognized brand. I mean, everybody's heard of Omega. James Bond wore Omega, so once you throw a watch on James Bond wrist, it's going to get the recognition, right? It's worn by famous athletes. It's been seen on the moon. So, lots of things contribute to them being able to rationalize what they charge. Which really, it doesn't, if you look at the cost of what it makes to produce one, it's not like that $3,000 watch they have to charge that to get their money back. I'm sure that watch doesn't cost more than a couple $100s to make, really. I don't have facts here, but, let's face it, if you look at what it costs to tool up to make a $150 watch, then they can sell it for, $150, $200, right? You can't tell me that it takes all that much more to produce an Omega. Really. They can charge whatever they want because people are willing to pay it to have that name on their wrist. And that's really what it comes down to. And are they well made? Yeah, they are well made. They are a high-end watch brand. They're typically very well constructed. They use fine finishes, sharp edges. All these details do take time, but I don't think that you can take an Omega and compare it to like one of my watches I'm looking at right now and say, oh man, there's a real difference here. It's like people who compare Mercedes to Honda. Like, you're telling me that you get in that Mercedes, not knowing if there was no badges on there, you take a brand new Honda, brand new Mercedes, you're going to get in that car and you're going to make a judgment call based on what you like cosmetically. Yeah, okay, maybe the leather might be, a little bit more higher quality. I mean, that could be, but I mean, is that leather so much higher quality that it rationalizes a cost of $200,000 versus a $30,000 car? If you took the badges off those cars, you really wouldn't know what you're sitting in, unless you had some sort of experience in the past, knowing, if you could. You're like, oh yes, it's a Mercedes. If you had some sort of information, but if you had no information, knew nothing about a vehicle, and got in those cars, you couldn't really tell a Mercedes from a Honda. I'm sorry. I mean, unless of course I'm not saying, I'm not, I know Mercedes will charge a certain amount based on like performance aspects, like whether it's an AMG or not. But really, if you take your basic Mercedes, like same size car as say your Honda or Toyota, you don't know what you're sitting in nowadays. You can't tell me you get in two brand new cars that you're going to get in there and be like, whoa, I can really feel the quality difference of this Mercedes. That's absurd. If you say that, you're a liar, plain and simple. So, okay, so what else makes the Omega so expensive? Well, they're made in Switzerland. Completely made in Switzerland, to my understanding. There's no outsourcing as far as like China, and and the labor costs in China are way cheaper than they are in Switzerland. So they're gonna pass that on to you. So I mean, naturally, you're supporting this Swiss economy, which is nothing wrong with that. Even though pretty much everything's made in China nowadays, guys. So there's no like some of the other watches, whereas like you may get for 150, they're producing the watch, but they will outsource their movement. So they'll depend on a company who are already producing the movement and can produce it very cheap, whereas a company like Omega, they do their movements in-house. So they're producing everything themselves. So naturally, if I were to turn around and if you compare it to, let's just say a high-end sports car, right? We'll use cars again as an analogy. You compare it to a high-end sports car, they're, like Ferrari, let's just say. They're producing everything on that car, right? And they're producing it on a mass production scale. But if you turn around and take the guy who is like, maybe is only producing like some of these really exotic high-end cars, they're only producing like maybe 100, that's really over the top, the quality isn't better one or the other. It's the fact you're paying for this elite, very rare car. It's like a limited edition kind of thing. So, you're paying more because you're getting something that somebody's building from the ground up. And like if I were to go ahead and build a vehicle from the ground up in my garage, let's say I was going to say, I'm going to go build a Honda in my garage. I'm going to buy all the parts put together. It's going to cost way more than just buying it already manufactured, right? So it's kind of the same thing, same concept in my opinion. Your advertising, they slam advertising. Omega advertises like crazy. That's why they've been to the moon. That's why they're on James Bond wrist. All that doesn't just cut. They don't just say, if I owned Fat Cat Collections watch company and I went to some movie studio and say, hey, I'd like James Bond to wear this, they're gonna laugh at me, right? And that's what happens with a lot of brands. That's paid to be put on their wrist. That's not something they decide to. James Bond wasn't like, I'm gonna wear an Omega. It comes down. Excuse me, to the highest bidder, So that's a factor there as well, and all that cost gets passed on to the consumer as well. However, Omega, in their defense, they are reasonable compared to other brands of that caliber. So, like you can find an Omega Seamaster or an Aquaterra under $2,000, whereas like a Speedmaster will set you back like $3,500. I don't know. Your entry-level Rolex or Breitling will set you back like $6,000 or $7,000. So, but then again, like personally, when I look at like a Breitling over an Omega, I like the styling way more of a Breitling than I do an Omega. So, it really comes down to what you like and what you're willing to, I guess, spend on, things that you find attractive. I don't know. Like I like a lot of the Invicta watches and Aragon watches. But I like them because of how they, cosmetically how they look, and and the quality's there as well. There's lots of watches that I see that are like some of these like hip hop watches that I love black stones. Whether they're onyx or spinal, or diamonds, whatever. But if I look at a watch that and I look at them, I've always had my heart set on getting an all black diamond watch, right? Whether it be precious stones or not, as long as the quality's there. But when I look at some of these watches you can get that are like, I'm not going to name the brands, but when you look at a watch that, I've seen several that are like $500, right? And it's a black watch, it's black plated, and it's got, you know, some precious stones on it. Well, $500, $600 for a watch that watch, you pick it up, there's no weight to it. It's using, like, they don't even mention the movement, and the quality of the materials is probably like $20. So you're paying for the fact that, like, it looks a certain way, you know? And, I mean, with something like that, I can't rationalize paying that because of just how it looks. But when you look at something like an Aragon or an Invicta, you're getting an amazing watch that feels good. You can feel the quality of the watch. You can see the quality of the watch. And, you know, for a price point that's amazing. So that's kind of why I gravitate towards that brand. There's other brands I've seen there like, that's a nice looking watch, but, you know, I can't rationalize spending $600 for a watch I know I'm going to get and be like, wow, this is basically just a heavily, heavily marked up watch. And let's face it, most watches, I mean, in my opinion, most watches, with the exception of Invicta and Aragon at this point, and some of the Bulvas, are extremely highly marked up. And I've had so many watches in my hands, that I've got my hands on, that I compare it to watches. I can sit here and compare right now a $2,600 watch versus a $150 watch, and anybody who would sit here, and if I handed you these watches and put a little sticky tape or something over the name and said, okay, tell me which one's most expensive, you will not pick correctly. I can guarantee you. So that's just my 2 cents, my opinion. Tell me what you guys think. I mean, that's why I put these things out there. You know, I don't mind disagreements on the channel as long as you're respectful about it, you know. And, you know, tell me what you guys think. Tell me your opinions. Let's get the discussion going on this. So, question is are Omega watches any good? And are they worth what, you know, tell me why you think they're worth what they charge for them based on, you know, what I said. Give me your opinion. So, guys, if you don't have more content like this, these are more of, like, discussion videos where you can drop the comments and we can all kind of interact and kind of, I guess, kind of, iron this kind of stuff out. So subscribe to the channel, like the channel, and as always, have a great day. Tell me what you guys think. Take care.